think we're ready. Ready to head to McDonald's for breakfast and then the race. This feels different. This is the fourth Dirty 30 that I'll be participating in, which is crazy because it still feels like I'm sort of brand new to this whole thing. But it does feel different. I'm the most prepared I've ever been, and we're gonna see how it goes. Hopefully well. So the start of the race is a little bit further back. It's in town now, and as a result, we're gonna have a little tiny bit more climbing, and I think that that's gonna break us up a little bit, which will be good, because once we get into the actual dirt, it's pretty holy. We got ready pretty early. We don't really need to be ready this early, do we? Yeah, I guess it's better to be ready. The 2023 Dirty 30 Filthy 50 miles underway. Now it's probably not going to come as a surprise to you if I tell you I didn't win this event, but that rider on the orange bike there on the left hand side of our screens, he is the eventual winner of the race. And I point that out because I noticed when I was watching this back that our riding styles differ pretty significantly. He wants out of this group that we're in right here. He wants to get to the front of the race, and he does so, and that's a pretty great idea, should you have the power to do so. Me, on the other hand, I'm pretty content sitting in the wheels, trying to get some draft, and holding on for dear life, really. I do think it's important to note, and maybe spoil a little bit, that by the end of this race, I performed 10% better in terms of my overall power over last year. And I say that because you're going to see me get past quite a bit, and you might think, well, you're not as fit as last year versus when I was passing a lot of people at the start of the event. It's really just where I lined up in the chute that seemed to make the big difference here. So yeah, 500-600 watts, and I'm getting my doors blown off. Now I know I'm probably not a front pack rider just yet, maybe someday, but I'm also trying to pace this event in such a way that I can finish without cramping and finish faster than last year. Those are the kinds of wins that I'm looking for. Now when I showed up to the event, I did consider that there was a chance I could ride with the front, but once we got into the event and starting to see how it's going to play out, unfortunately I realized that's probably not going to happen. We're only a mile in, and the front of the race is already getting away from me because there is a bit of a climb at the start of this race. Now I do see some athletic mentors riders to my left, and they're a pretty reliable bunch. They're usually strong, they handle their bikes well, so I am more than happy to jump on their train. I mean, I'm doing over 300 watts. This is not a lazy effort at all, especially when you consider that my FTP setting is about 236 watts. Maybe it's a little bit higher than that after this race. I think we can probably conclude that, but that's where we're at. A big theme of the day was going to be potholes. We saw a bottle just on the right hand side of the screen get shot out. I saw bottles, bottle cages, head units. Everything came flying off during this event. And I think most of that comes down to if you're trying to draft and you're not perfectly on the wheel in front of you and they dodge a pothole and you hit it, well, you're definitely going to lose something eventually if you do that enough. So I'm trying to slot in, trying to figure out what this group's going to look like, because I always end up in a group of some kind, and that's always a big goal for me, is to ride in a group. It's faster, it's easier, and it's more fun generally. So I do put in a big effort to get across to these 4 or 5 riders up here who looked a little bit more grouped up, and I was hoping that we could work together. In the Dirty 30, an event like this, if you lose groups, you're probably going to end up being solo for most of the day. And it's still a nice course to ride on your own. it's just going to be a little bit harder, maybe a little bit longer for you. So I do make my way back up to these riders, but we're still not coalesced just yet. Until about 5 miles in, we have a nice echelon across the road. The wind's coming from our right-hand side, so I'm getting some good shelter here. And honestly, if I could have had this all day, I would have taken it, because I would have been able to see in front of me what was coming in terms of potholes. But that's okay. Can't always have it in the optimal conditions. But actually, this is pretty great right now. We're looking at some good roads, even power, 22 miles an hour, good group. This is exactly what I remember gravel racing feeling like, and I am having a good time. Here's a nice look at the entire group. We've got riders from Athletic Mentors, Ann Arbor Velo Club, Clark Logic, and I counted once or twice throughout the race, and I believe we were at 11 generally. We would lose a couple, gain a couple. Now I've always got to keep a clip of me in the front in the video because it doesn't happen that frequently. And in this group particularly, I was really struggling to hang on. This was a strong group of riders, but this was an opportunity for me to do a little bit of the work. Now this rider comes through, he is really strong. He gets into his aero bars and then is doing like, I don't know, like 500 watts, because I'm in his draft doing over 300. Now he did this for a while, and all I could do was hang on. We skip forward to what is typically always the first test of the Dirty 30. Even in the 30 mile or the 50 mile, when you hit this climb, you've been doing threshold for, the first 10 miles. Now this is the first time you're going to get a surge or punch to the legs. And fortunately, the riders in this group are not surging too much. We are going to see 400 or 500 watts out of myself, but it's definitely manageable. Everyone's still trying to stay in the draft, keep good position. There's some water. And this is a short climb, so it's not a big deal. It's definitely something you can get over, but it's always a test. That rider with the orange power button and the blue bike there on the left-hand side, he's moving into the third wheel position. He was really strong, and I made note of that because he was a good wheel to follow out of this group later in the race. The next test, and one that almost broke me, was at 13.5 miles. We're on a hill, and I didn't make note of this one for some reason. I just found myself on this climb with these other riders riding away from me, even though I'm doing over 300 watts. Now I'm really trying to stay in here. You can see a gap sort of opening up and then closing, and I'm wiggling around. Yeah, this one caught me off guard. Now this is a different rider from Clark Logic that is directly in front of me, and the thing is that they and I have a very similar tactic, and it's sort of a fault for me that we like to be at the back, it seems, or we find ourselves there, and we're both trying to give room to the group to see potholes or in case something happens. And this ends up being a bit of a detriment, I think, to both of us later, or just generally as we're riding in this group, as we find ourselves dangling. We make a big jump forward to 26.1 miles. And again, I'm in fourth wheel. This is more near the front. This was part of the goal, the execution goal that I had for this race. And I'll tell you, it's easier here. It's easier to be more near the front of the group, but it does require a different type of ride. It's a more consistent power, it's smoother, and generally the line's a little better, because by the time you get back to the 11th rider, the line that the first rider took is totally different. And you're also not having to sprint out of corners if you're more near the front of the group. It's that whip effect. You can see a little jump there over some potholes. A couple miles later, I get pinched a little bit into some of this mud. Not a big deal, but it does break up our group. And you'll see that rider I mentioned earlier with the orange power button on his kit, he was just not pedaling there. I think he had an issue with his brakes. But this Clark Logic rider and I, again, similar mindset. Neither one of us really want to close this gap, right? They're sitting up, I'm sitting up, and then their rider with the orange power button is going to come by, and both of us get out on his wheel. So we were probably capable of closing this down ourselves, but if you're race-minded and you don't want to spend that energy and you think you can get across another way, well, why not, right? Now I cut this clip up, but he does work for so long. And eventually both the other ClarkLogic rider and I get back to the group. This is always an exciting portion of this course. You ride underneath the highway through this concrete tunnel. Now the camera can actually see a lot better than I could. It was really dark in here. But I expected there to be some potholes and things on the backside, and there was. And fortunately I took a pretty good line through it. Totally on accident, because you just have to send it through there. You don't really have a choice unless you want to slow down. But we make it through there all right, still in the group, and notably I'm feeling better at this point in the race than I was last year. We find ourselves again on the front of this group, and we're on the road, and for some reason these road sections were almost harder than the gravel sections. It's like the other riders felt more confident or were stronger on the road. So as I pull off and the other riders are coming through, I'm still doing 250, 260 watts, and my legs are starting to tell me that things are not okay. I'm moving back slowly and I want to get back in, and I do until I can't seem to hold the power anymore. And the rider on the front's coming back. I was fourth wheel trying to stay up there in the front, and I had to pull out because I was just locking up and stopping. Now my power doesn't reflect that, but I'm feeling it. So I was doing 280, I just dropped down to 220. I'm trying to bring it back up again to stay with this rider, but my legs are just not going to have it. They're not going to let me stay in this group right now, and I've got to ease up. So not too much later, we see a unicyclist. That was a category at this race, and there was a bunch of people who showed up on one wheel, which was sweet to see. Also, it looked really challenging. But anyways, the group's gone, right? They're up the road, and I'm taking it easy. I've dropped my power down, my heart rate's starting to go down as well. And I'm starting to feel better, and I'm wishing I had made an effort. And then a rider comes up behind me, and he yells something like he's coming through. And look at this, I put in this effort to get on his wheel, and I'm able to hold it. Now I believe what happened is he dropped his chain, and he's been chasing our group, or what was the group I was in, for a long time. Now, I'm able to get on his wheel and hold a decent power, but look, we're doing 28 miles an hour. But even so, I don't totally believe we can get back. He's been doing a fantastic job, but I'm gonna need the help, and I'm still not feeling 100% just yet, but I roll up and have a chat. What's your name? Tyler. Nice to meet you, man. I don't think I'm gonna get back there. That gap's still pretty big, and for a while, I also tried to get on the front and do some work, and I thought that at the very least, if I could just hold the gap, even if I wasn't bringing us back, if Tyler had just a few seconds or a minute to recover, then maybe he could make another attempt at it, and if I'm lucky, I'll hang on to his wheel and get back into this group. But this little bit of work I'm doing actually appears to be bringing us back. When this rider started coming back to us so quickly, I thought that was the whole group, but it was just another rider. And then I realized we had further to go, but fortunately Tyler shuts down the remainder of this gap very impressively, and I'm back in the group. Now we've only got about 10 more miles until the end of this race. We skip forward a couple of miles. I'm still with the group. I've gotten a couple more miles of group riding out of the ride, but I know that there are some hills coming up, including Ivan the Terrible and the hill just before the Kaiser Roll, which is what we're seeing on the screen right now. The group's riding away. I'm doing over 200 watts at 5 miles an hour. I'm crawling up this hill, but at a pretty good pace for me, and I've accepted that I'm going to have to finish the rest of this race pretty much on my own. Now this is the Kaiser Roll downhill. We're flying. I think that's what it's called. I hope that's what it's called. No power, no cadence. Heart rate's coming down, doing 35. I topped out, I think, at 38 miles an hour today. It's always a fun descent to come down, and it was in really good condition. Now, we're at the climbing. This is sped up 4 times because maybe you're watching this video to get an idea of what the climbing is like at the end of the race. So this is 4 times sped up so that way you can see the whole thing. Now I'm by myself also, so I don't think it'd be too enjoyable to watch me crawl up this hill. You can see some other riders are also challenged with this climb, but I'm just going to shut up for a bit and let you enjoy what is Ivan the Terrible. So the whole time I'm climbing up Ivan the Terrible, I'm seeing a rider behind me. I didn't know it was Tyler at the time, but then he catches up to me.
Yeah, let's race.
And basically he had dropped his chain and he had fallen back and he had just now caught me and he's like, hey, do you want to roll turns? I'm like, yeah, sure, let's race. And so I pick up the pace a little bit, and we're already doing 30 miles an hour. Rolling across this really nice gravel, no potholes, flat, packed, downhill. It's the best way to finish a race. And I'm ready to do this to the end, even pace. There's no one that's going to catch us. We're not going to catch anyone. It's just me versus him at the line is what I'm expecting. And then he comes by and absolutely lights it up. Look at that. Full power. And I try a little bit, a lot of it. But that was everything I had at the time. And my best shot of trying to catch back up to him was going to be to just hold a steady power and just hope that maybe he blows up. So for the next mile or so, I'm chasing him down. I'm trying to catch back up to him. We've got one more right-hand corner before the finish. And I'm thinking maybe he'll take the corner slowly and I'll get back to him. He is checking back to kind of keep an eye on where I'm at, and he takes the corner fast. I try to take it quick as well, over 20 miles an hour, through the corner, immediately on the gas, and I'm pushing, and he's looking back. He knows he's got it. He's fine. I'm not going to come around him, but I'm not going to stop trying until we get to the line, which was actually at the beginning of the chute. Not that it would have made a difference in this case, but right here, that's the end of the race. Here's another look at it. That was a great time. I rolled up next to him, gave him a fist bump, told him nice job, and then just had to do some reflecting on how the race went and how I felt about everything. Okay, so now I've got the summary up. Let's look and see how I did on the power. Come on, 247 normalized? Where's my average? Average 224. Have a burrito. Pretty good. 42.49 age group, and a time of 1:50. I'm glad to have the first race of the season under my belt, and it was a good day. Nice weather, no mechanicals. I rode stronger, 10% increase in power, 224 versus 204 from last year, and my time improved. You see 240, 256 this year in 37th place versus 236.09 in 53rd place, but there were more people this year. So all in all, a great day, and thank you for watching.